Perfect. So the leadership and teamwork modules, hopefully all of you have seen these in either the CTS for the RMC side or the CTP for the Sea Cadet side, in terms of the modules that are available in the program guide, on the TNA, and the various places that we've published that. But there was initially a leadership and teamwork syllabus that was part of the CTP, and there were leadership modules that were part of the CTS, which have gone through redevelopment over the last couple of months. When we went through the CTP consolidation period, which had both a volunteer working group and a cadet working group, the purpose of those was to look through all of the modules that were available for cadets in the CTP especially, and look at what was good about them, what actually might need to change, what wasn't working, which bits need to be consolidated, which bits actually were repeated. And so the feedback that came through, these are just some of the key bits that came up most often through that process, were from volunteers saying that the content had lots of theory that instructors were just expected to know or understand, and not a huge amount of guidance to support that. Also saying that for the senior cadets, who are the ones that go through a lot of those LT modules or the leadership modules, that there's not always enough instructors to have a dedicated instructor for the able cadets and the leading cadets on a regular basis, and the cadets are often not able to have that full resource, and that the modules themselves were repetitive and there wasn't enough activities in them. Anyone that had seen the previous modules in its previous iteration will know that there were 28 modules, but a lot of those modules were exactly the same theory, but done over the course of 2 weeks, but only including maybe 2 activities in a session plan. So the reality is there was a lot that you as instructors would need to do to be able to fill up that time to make it last a full parade night or 2 sessions. The cadet feedback, a lot of the feedback that was in that was quite similar to one of the points in the volunteer feedback, which was that sometimes they didn't actually have an instructor to be able to deliver these leadership modules, and were told to just go and complete their CTP on their own, or they were asked to be teaching 90% of their time as a senior cadet, which I know that in units sometimes there's not the number of adult volunteers, and you do need your senior cadets to be involved in the teaching bit. This is not a suggestion that needs to stop and that cadets can't do any support with the delivery. But the other bits were that they really wanted to have some more interesting lessons. A lot of the theory and the content was quite old-fashioned in the sense that it had been around for quite a long time, and they wanted a bit of a renewal of some of that, and also wanted to be able to find the information themselves. So if they were looking for revision or to use some of those when they were writing personal statements or applications, that they'd be able to go back and go, oh yeah, that's some of the information that I did, that's some of the content that we covered, and I can use that later down the line. So those were some of the key bits of feedback that came through beforehand. And then the outcomes that we agreed that needed to be in place for when those sessions were created were, firstly, that it would work alongside the new leadership at Sea Cadets. All of the cadet response was, if we're doing these leadership modules and our adults are doing leadership modules, the two should align, and we should be able to get our qualifications if we do the leadership modules as cadets, the same as our new volunteers get when they go and do their leadership at Sea Cadets as new volunteers, so that it's not completely separated across, but also that they wanted skills that would help them outside of Sea Cadets for applications for jobs and for teamwork and leadership that they might do outside of Sea Cadets. It had to be led by engaging activities, had to support both the Royal Marines cadets and the Sea Cadets. This is the change that happened in the last couple of months, came out of our Royal Marines cadet working group saying, we really want to have these leadership modules. We want to be able to have the equitable experience in terms of both getting the RPLE for leadership of Sea Cadets, but also having the same experience in terms of the leadership content. Had to be contextualized to Sea Cadets and Royal Marines cadets. They didn't want it to just be exactly the same as the adult syllabus. They wanted to have that the sessions might have similar outcomes, but were focused on them as Sea Cadets and Royal Marines cadets and senior cadets within a unit. that they didn't require an expert in leadership in order to deliver them. So it shouldn't be the case that the person who's leading the sessions is the expert standing in the front saying, I am the leader, you need to listen to me, I've got all of the answers. You need to be quiet now and listen to my experience. And then the last bit was that, and this was something that came directly from the cadets, which we hadn't originally planned on having as part of this, but they wanted the sessions to be written in a way that they could be, if necessary, a group of senior cadets could get together and work through these sessions between themselves, following the steps, step by step, as a group of senior cadets. This is not our preferred way of the sessions being run, because it's obviously most useful to have an instructor there as a facilitator and a group leader, but they can be done as a group with cadets working together. So we will have a look at the syllabus. So what you will see if you go into, if you're anyone who is an RMC instructor, will see that every single module that is included within Cadet Corporal is taken from either able or leading cadet within the blue syllabus. So every single one of these modules here is delivered by both blue instructors and green instructors, can be delivered as a whole unit with both sides working together, could support with instructor numbers potentially as well. So I hope has everyone seen this document, actually, the program guides for CTP and CTS? Give me a people who I can see a nod or a shake of your head if you. There's a couple of nods and a couple of shaking of heads. So both, I'll very quickly show this. So both the CTP and CTS have program guides, which you can access either through Programs Online or through the TNA. And this has all of the information that you need to deliver either the CTS or the CTP. So it has introduction sections for new volunteers, so that they get all the information about what the CTS or CTP is, what Programs Online is, why is it structured this way, how can I contribute to it, and then it has a syllabus structure broken down. So for each module, it will have the name. It has a link to all of the Programs Online session plans that are linked to that one. It also has all the objectives, and it has any resources that might be useful for those topics, and that's for all the different ranks within both Royal Marines cadets and Sea cadets as well. And then there's also sections specifically on individual module types. So if you're an instructor that is particularly interested in the leadership and teamwork or the leadership, you can go directly to those and see the full syllabus and the full journey that goes through leadership and teamwork in the CTP or in the CTS. So that's a very brief explanation of that. If you have any questions on that, just make a note of them and we can go through them in a minute. But if we take some of the leadership modules, this is a little bit of information about why they're in there. As we said, it's about how to be an effective leader, an effective team member for both Sea Cadets and for Royal Marines cadets. We know that a key element of being a senior cadet is working both within a cadet team, but also often within an adult team and a volunteer team where you're supporting them, they're supporting you. And so there's a big element of that, and especially in the Royal Marines cadets, when we talk about when people are going out in the field or when you're doing like Jib Cup prep or things like that, there's a lot of teamwork and leadership that goes into that. So we want to cover that, but also look at it in terms of skills that you can get for life outside of Sea Cadets. If we have a look at a couple of sessions, just an example, I don't know whether anyone wants to unmute themselves and say a session they'd like to look at out of these ones. These are the ones that are joint between both blue and green, so probably the best ones to look at first. Anyone want to shout one out?
No.
Do the first one, Sam.
What makes a great leader?
Mm-hmm.
So in this one here, so you can see that at the top of each of them, it will say that it's included in both the cadet training syllabus and the cadet training program, and it links across through to both of them, so you can see that they're both delivered on both sides. So in these ones here, this is it's sort of an introduction to some of the leadership skills that you need to have and what different leadership types are. So the leadership task cards look like this. So they're little silly warmer tasks, but they actually have a reasoning behind them. So your team must successfully draw a happy penguin holding an umbrella. Your leadership trait that you are being given is that you are the secret keeper. So you only ever give your team tasks to do. You never actually tell them what the picture plan is. So you have that guidance which says that you can only give them instructions using shapes, sizes, and positions on the page. You can't explain what the actual animal or the description of that animal would be. And so they have various different ones of these as the warmer, and they've got to then talk about what the impact of those leadership traits of secret keepers, open and transparent, distrusting, don't like delegating, delegator and supporter, unenthusiastic, motivator. There's lots of these that you can do, and it's moving around different tasks, and each person gets a turn at being a different type of leader. So they can talk about what they think makes a positive leader through that experience. Then they talk a little bit more in some more detail about actual qualities of a leader. So they do that, and then they reflect on which of the leadership traits from the 4 stations they would like to develop, and they present back on one of those areas in which they think they would like to develop and put down a confidence scores to review at the end of it. So they say, I'm a 5 out of 10 when it comes to delegation and support, but I'm a 10 out of 10 when it comes to transparency and honesty. And then you look at that again at the end of the leadership and teamwork modules. So that's an example of one of them at the beginning. Does anyone have one they want another one that you'd like to have a quick look at?
Conflict resolution.
Conflict resolution, lovely. So again, it's linked across to LT15, conflict resolution, which is the module in the blue side. And then this one here, as I said, we have suggested that they could be delivered in terms of peer delivery, but we've put a note in here to say that this is a session that should not be delivered in a peer delivery session. Should always be facilitated with a volunteer, because it is talking about conflict and conflict resolution in some scenarios. So there's 2 different videos. I think for a lot of these modules, we want them to be facilitative. So we want them to be that the person who's leading the session has had a chance to read beforehand, has a chance to get familiarized with the session, but also that you and the cadets can work together as a group to uncover some of these answers. So for example, in that one before, working with the cadets to not say, I think that this is the answer, I think that this is what the right thing is to do, but having that discursive nature to all the sessions where you're saying, what do you think? What do you think? And actually treating yourself as a group, and you're part of that group rather than someone outside of the group talking to them. And I think that's really useful in this one here as well. So getting to know the group, and then knowing, for example, if you look at these 2, one of them is maybe a little bit more humorous, one of them is a little bit more detail oriented. And so knowing your cadets will probably help you decide which one of those is the best one for them. And then we have scenarios in here. So if we get the scenarios from activity 1, the scenarios are in here in the conflict resolution. So they choose one of those scenarios from the video, and then they write their outcome on a scrap piece of paper, place it on the far end of the room, write the original scenario on the other piece of paper. So you have what you want the desired outcome to be and what the original scenario would be. And then you work together to put steps in place in order to get from the original situation to the outcome. And those are the bits that you're going to stand across to make your way from the conflict in the original situation to actually how are you going to solve that conflict. So it's putting little steps in the way to physically move yourself from a place of conflict to a place where you've actually solved that conflict. And then they do a conflict consequences, which is where you you've probably done the activity where you write the beginning of a conflict, and then you have that conversation where each person is adding another line to the conversation, and hopefully by the time you get to the end of that paper, that conflict has been resolved. If it hasn't, then you discuss why that conflict wasn't resolved, what bits you might change as a group in terms of that consequences and that discussion. So that's two brief examples of those. The other thing that it's really useful to be aware of when it comes to these sessions and any sessions when we talk about programs online in the CTP and CTS is these are ideas that we've given, so that if you're not sure how to deliver that, you can use these sessions and run them straight through step-by-step activity 1, activity 2, activity 3. But I know that there's probably some people on this call that have got loads of experience either in leadership or in delivery or in the CTP more generally. This isn't to say that it's prescriptive, you have to deliver the session exactly the way that it's written on there, so long as you're meeting the objectives in the programme guide. So if you go into the syllabus that we're looking at, so for example, if you're in leading cadet and you want to do an emotional intelligence one, oh sorry, can you see my screen? If you want to do an emotional intelligence one, so long as you've hit these 4 objectives and you feel confident that you've hit them, then you can do other activities that are going to fit with this. Leadership is a harder one because it's quite a complicated topic and some of it's, there's quite a lot of theory to it. So try to make it as simple as possible in the session plans. But for these and also for other topics, the programme guide is where you can see all of those objectives. And so long as you're hitting those objectives, I'm happy for people to do their own sessions and to come up with your own ideas. If you do, please let us know through the share your ideas button on Programs Online as well, because then we can turn those into new sessions that other volunteers in other units can get value from as well. Lovely. So these are just some of the top tips. Can you see that screen with the top tips? Yeah. So because all of the objectives that are met from the Leading Cadet unit are also present in this, it hits every single learning objective from that course. So you can use, it's a nice chance for the people that have been through that course recently, the Leading a Sea Cadet unit, to already have the knowledge, and then they are able to deliver. Often it can be the case in some units where newer volunteers will have less time or less ability to teach some of our senior cadets because some of the skills are significantly higher in terms of the stuff that they work on. But this is a nice chance for them to be able to come in and teach both new entries, but also some of our senior cadets, because they've just covered exactly the same content. So they'll be in a position to be able to think about it in the same way. As I said before, instructors don't need to be leaders. You can learn along with the sessions. If you're using the session plans, they're designed that you're not already an expert. But I would try and read them at least 24 hours before so that you know what's going on beforehand. As I said before, you can run them as joint section sessions, so they can be RMC and Sea Cadets together. Helps with instructor numbers. And then also, as I said, it can be RPLE for the leadership of Sea Cadets, and it can be building towards their position as a volunteer. But if you know for a fact that the cadets that you're working with are not moving towards being a volunteer, look at how you can use the same sessions in terms of their goals for whatever they want to do next. If they're going to be joining the Navy in 6 months, then they're probably not going to be going straight into being a volunteer in your unit. So always have those goals in mind as you're delivering. There's loads and loads of resources that you can use to help support you. So as I said, the CTP and the CTS program guides have all of the learning objectives, have the links to session plans, have resources already built into them. So use that as much as you can and send that out to anyone that you speak to. Programs Online is where those session plans sit. So you can use that to actually read through the session plans and do them. And the cadets also have access to those sessions so they can go back and revise them, review them, especially before promotion boards and things like that. Share your ideas, which is the button on every single session plan and on the homepage on Programs Online. You can click on that and put as much or as little information as you want. If you have an idea of a session, a way that you would like to deliver that session that you think other instructors would like to know. It doesn't have to be a fully detailed session plan. but the ideas and some elements of that activity, and then our team will turn that into a new session plan that will go on. So all the ones that are on there at the moment are the A sessions, but if you submit a share your idea, that'll become a B session, which is an alternative way to deliver it, because we know that there's not only one way that our cadets like to learn or that we want the delivery to happen. Working with young people, obviously a lot of the cadets that are doing this are going through a lot of periods of transition, and there's a lot of sort of youth development that's inherently discussed within any leadership and teamwork modules. So the foundation course, but also the level 2 skills for working with young people. If anyone has not heard about that, it's an official qualification that you can apply to. The next course is going to be running fairly soon, which is focused all on gaining an actual qualification towards youth development, and it talks about trauma-informed youth development and how young people's brains develop and all of that kind of stuff, things about behaviour management, things about social and emotional awareness, all of that kind of stuff. If anyone's interested in that, just let me know at the end of the call and I can put you onto the list and give you some more information. There's also develop your competencies, which some of you may already have been on, some of you might not, but this is on the DLE. If you go to Sea Cadet Core, working with young people, and then Beyond Foundation, this is for your own volunteer CPD. There's resources. So for example, if you wanted to go something that's part of the leadership courses reflection, if you want to look at it yourself from an adult volunteer point of view, there's short bite-size videos, for example, on the Gibbs reflective cycle, which is included as part of it. There's longer reads, there's a self-guided reflective journal that you can use to look at your own teaching and your own instruction. And then there's longer things like Open University, Open Learn courses if you really want to get involved in those, and those are free to access, and you can either get a level 1 or level 2 qualification through Open University, Open Learn. So it's linked to loads of those things. And also, as you're going through that, if you have any other areas where you're like, I feel like there's something missing here, there's something that I would like to develop, again, send an email through to our training team and we'll be able to look at how we can do that as well. Last thing, sorry, I know this is a load of information very quickly. Completing all of the modules up to the end of Leading Cadet gets RPLE for Leadership of Sea Cadets if a cadet moves from cadet to volunteer. All of the information about cadet RPLE is on the TNA page, SCC headquarters, cadet RPLE, and then the form that you can fill in for your cadets, or your UTO or your CO can fill in for your cadets, is on prior learning on the TNA SCC headquarters as well. And the big thing here is if you have a cadet who is looking to move from cadet to volunteer, but they might have joined more recently, and they may not have had time to get all the way up to Leading Cadet, prioritize these modules and the modules that are going to get them that RPLE. If you know that they're going to be a really positive volunteer and you want to get them in that direction, it's absolutely fine to go, I want to prioritize those modules that are going to help them towards their cadet to volunteer journey, rather than I need to make sure I get every single element of this this rank or rate done in time for them to turn 18, because that's probably not going to happen, but they will get value from this if they want to carry on as volunteer. That was a load of information. I tried to get as much in there as possible in half an hour. Hopefully that was useful. But please let me know if you have any questions.
Sam, the last slide you just showed with regards to all the information for your own kind of development and training, where was that on?
Oh, could you not see my screen on that?
Yeah, I did. I just missed. I saw the information coming down, but I just missed where you went to it from.
Ah, lovely. Let me. Can you see that? Can you see that again?
Yeah. You showed the tiles with the training on. Talked about the Open University. That's the one.
Yeah. So if you go
DLE.
into Cadet Forces on the DLE,
It's DLE, yeah, okay.
C Cadet
Fine.
core, working with young people, beyond foundation, and develop your competencies, or you can go on to
Beyond
the
foundation.
members area and go into working with young people on there, and there's a link that goes straight through to it. If you go to volunteer training, volunteer initial training, adult core modules, working with young people, and then into beyond foundation.
Beyond foundation, yeah, fab, thanks.
But I can I'll send through a link to the PowerPoint so you can get all of those resources as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Nope.
No. Has anyone delivered any of the leadership modules? Anyone got any feedback? Any things that have worked? Any things that you'd like to see added in the future?
I did the first one you actually talked about, but I did that best part of a year ago, and I just remember there was one cadet who wanted to do all the things and everybody else didn't. So all the activities like drawing the penguin and such. But yeah, I don't really. It was quite fun, but yeah, beyond that, no real feedback. Sorry.
No, that's fine. At the bottom of every single session, there's a link to a feedback survey. So if you do them again, send through any feedback that you have. We check that. Me and Tasha, who's on the call, check that every week and reply and make changes. So it won't just be going into the ether. We genuinely do check it and make changes every week based on it.
That's cool.
Anyone else? No. Well, I hope that was useful. That was hopefully that was enough information to get you interested in both the leadership and teamwork, or the leadership modules if you're on the RMC side, and also hopefully you'll be able to use the program guide and go through those session plans. And if anyone has any ideas of how you deliver it, please use that, share your ideas, because we will take it and turn it into new sessions.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Sam.
No worries. Have a great evening. If anyone wants to ask any questions about level 2, working with young people, if anyone is interested, feel free to stay on. Let me know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Sam, I'm going to jump on that level 2 question.
Lovely. Let me just turn off the record.